All right, welcome to True Talk. Got my man Steve Giordano with us today. How we doing, Steve?
I am awesome, brother.
Great, dude. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We were talking about this right before we started, but you are one of the most frequent True Talk guests. This is your third or fourth, maybe?
Yeah, you're not sick of me yet, I'm shocked.
No, not yet, dude. Well, I mean, you keep ending the year at number one, so it's like, how do we not have you on True Talk? You know, so that's what we're talking about today. I also wanted to give this to you since
Wow.
You forgot this at convention. Dude.
Forgot
we got this here. How many of these do you have now?
4.
4, right? So this is the belt, the title for the number one producer in all of FFL.
Champ is here.
The champ is here. Acknowledge, Steve.
Acknowledge me.
You're also our number one producer of all time. Like, Family First Slice has been around for over 10 years, and there's nobody that has sold more life insurance personally with us than you. So congratulations. Thank you for everything you do. But that's really what I want to talk about today is, like, I guess, why? Why every year do you, or 4 years in a row now, you finish number one, right? Why is that so important to you?
You know, it's interesting because it's not always like my main goal. I think my main goal is to grow the team. But I do think this. I think I strive to be the best that I can be every day. And then if that turns into that, awesome.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I'm going to give it everything that I got every day. I also take a lot of pride in this company and what it's done for me.
Yeah.
And I take I have a lot of respect in the fact that I can kind of lead the company in some regard. You know, like at convention, one of the highlights for me was people kind of coming up to me, either asking questions and trying to figure stuff out and whatever level they're at here.
Yeah.
And then other people that you talked to like a year ago coming in saying, hey, you know, I did this one little thing that you said and like, wow, it really took my business to this level. I take a lot of pride in that. And I think the two things kind of go hand in hand when you're kind of the number one guy at a company.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility that you need to kind of pass on to people. So those are kind of the things for me that really, I guess, kind of keep me motivated and keep me moving.
Are you surprised that no one else has been number one? Like, no one else is kind of coming for that spot?
Actually, because there's a lot of like crazy people that are
a lot
really
of talented
close.
producers.
Yeah, and there's people really close, and I've sweated out some moments.
Yeah.
Where, you know, some people are starting to figure out things and how to do this in different ways. You know, if it's the way they're running ads and, you know, AI type of stuff and ways that they can really be more productive. And it kind of keeps me on my heels as well.
So for the past 4 years, each year you've helped over 1,000 families, correct? Which sounds crazy, right? Like, part of it is, first of all, believing that you can do that, right? Did you believe that at first?
Not like day one or year one. I think going into that second year, where at the time, and it's funny when you look at the numbers, like, you know, JPP did like 748, and I was like 695, and I was kind of like 11 months because I started like 11 months in.
That was your first year.
That was my first year,
yeah. So just shy of 700 families.
Yeah. So going into the second year, I'm like, okay, like, kind of know what we spent and what the work looked like at 700.
Have you always had such a good perspective, good mindset, or is there things that you've done, you know, when you got into this business that have kind of helped you maintain that?
I think I've always had a decent mindset. I think it's definitely gotten stronger over time because you have to be a problem solver. You know, like kind of like you said when everything happened. You know, like Sean he obviously led the charge, which was great because it was the right message to us.
Right.
You know, and then it was like, okay, like, let me take a step back. Let me look at what this problem is, and let me analyze how we can fix it. And not only fix it, but how do we take it from a disadvantage and make it an advantage?
Right.
And that's something I think over time in my life and being in this industry and this company, I've gotten better at over time because I'm like, okay, like there's different ways to skin the cat. But let's take that negative, turn it into a positive, and not only that, but excel. Because my view was this in all of that was that all the people, this company and other companies that said, we can't do it, we can't sell. I'm like, I'm going to ravage every one of your clients. And I'm going to go out and just tear it up.
Right.
Because, you know, how many people I met that year, and even now, you know, insurance agents that don't want to go above and beyond, and they don't want to do the little things that are really not that big of a deal.
Right.
But it's just going above and beyond for someone. And then you become their person for insurance. You know know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge thing for me. And I think over time of doing this and kind of studying entrepreneurship, it's like, that's what those people do.
Yeah.
Like, the sky isn't always falling.
Right.
You know, like all right, here's a problem. All right, there's a great solution.
Yeah.
Let's keep it moving.
Absolutely. And, you just made a comment that, it's not a big deal. You also, I don't think you look at your production as a big deal. Like, it's not, it's just,
That's what I do.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, and some people look at it like, oh, I can't believe you helped that many families in a year. Like, I could never do that. Bad perspective, bad mindset. But you look at it as, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah. Consistently, I know what my schedule needs to be. I know that if there's things in my life that I want to do, with my family, my kids, like, I schedule them out accordingly. I know that the amount of time I need to be working, because like I worked in corporate America, right? Like I used to work, and I worked restaurants. So you were working until the job was done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the restaurant was open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
We did lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Some weeks maybe you were working a little less, but a lot of the time you were working more. It's the same kind of mindset where it's like, okay, like the time I need to work, and then I'm going to schedule these things I need to do with my friends, family, whatever, around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So 4 years in a row now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Steve.
Yeah.
Are you 2025, we're at annual convention, we'll be giving away another badass belt. We're actually already talking to the guy. We're going to have it up here pretty soon.
Cool.
Am I going to be handing this to you again?
Yeah, why not? I think I'm going to keep working and keep doing my thing. I mean, I'm not like slowing down. I mean, I'm trying to do things a little differently, obviously more team focused and with the integrity deal and stuff like that, and doing different things. But I mean, like, I'm still selling. I mean, and look, if somebody comes and beats me, like, good for you. Like, that's one. And then I think we had last year, like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, it was like
people
like all over the stage that helped over 1,000 families.
And it's just crazy, the art of the possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, with what's going on now with technology and what we're doing, like, Ethos Link, like we were just talking about that a little earlier, like the possibilities are endless, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the first time you won the belt, like, you were here and then everyone else was here. And to your point, this past year, you were here, but dude, there's 3 or 4 people right there, which is great. And it's like that whole 4-minute mile deal, right? The first time, like prior to that, I think most people, probably all of our company, thought you could not help 1,000 families in a year. Like, that's crazy, right? But you proved that it could be done. And then next thing you know, you get 1 or 2 more. Dude, next year we'll have probably 10, 15 people that have helped over 1,000 families, which is great. We did a T&L recently, right? And one of the things we touched on briefly was riding a roller coaster. I want to talk about that a little bit more, because that, I believe, is one of the keys to figuring out how to sell, like how to be consistent, because that roller coaster is, every new agent rides it. Some people ride the highs way too much. Some people ride the lows way too much. Some people ride both, When you first started, what did you struggle more with, riding the highs or the lows?
I think the lows has always been for me, because I've never, like, sat there and been like, oh, my God, you sold this much this day, week, or month. I've never, the entire time I've done this. Have I been happy about it or whatever? But to me, it's always been like, it's just another day at the office. It's another week, another month at the office.
Yeah.
The lows, I'll get very annoyed and in my own head on the lows, but I think the good trait that I have is I acknowledge it, I let it sit there a minute, and then I move on.
Yeah.
I don't, because I'm like, am I going to do anything about it?
Right.
Am I going to change? No.
Yeah, can't fix it now.
What I can fix is I lost this. Let me go gain these 3.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think it all goes back to, if you run this like a business and work it like a job, you're gonna have enough funding for the business to have enough people to talk to, and then you're gonna actually work it day in and day out, and just constantly the activity is gonna overcome, and activity is also gonna make you better.
Yeah.
So riding that roller coaster, the key of it is just don't get too, oh, I'm so great. You know what I mean? Like, have the mentality that, be confident in what you're doing and acknowledge that you're good at what you're doing, but understand, like, everybody's got a long way to go.
Right.
We don't all have it figured out by any stretch.
Yeah. And it's like, look around, dude, there's plenty of other people doing it as well. So, like, if you're going, I'm so great, I'm the best ever, like, there's like 100 people that are right neck and neck with you. Like, it's what we do is, it's not easy, but it's simple.
Right.
You know, so to get on your high, oh, I'm a mate, like, do your talking to people that filled out a form asking for life insurance.
Right.
Let's
Ego will kill you.
Exactly. Yeah, how have you been able to keep your ego in check with having these types of numbers? Because it's got, I would imagine every year it's a little harder, right? Because you're like, oh, another year I'm at top, another belt. Like, you must be running out of space to put these damn things.
Yes.
But how do you
collect belts? I like belts, so it's good.
Do you collect belts outside of here too?
Like wrestling.
You
like
do?
I have a
Oh
bunch
man,
of
we're gonna see your collection.
Yeah,
Then. You send us a picture.
Yeah,
But how have you been able to keep your ego in check? You know, each year doing more and more and more.
I think because the nature of this business is it's a humbling business, day in and day out, and I've never lost sight of that because like you're gonna have the chargebacks and this and that, and you have to obviously manage that.
Yeah.
And you have to that keeps you humble. And the fact that you lose so much in sales, yes, you're going to have success and you're going to make sales, but you lose so much.
Yeah.
If you keep grounded in like, all right, I got to continue to overcome losses, you're never going to be able to be like, oh, I'm the greatest thing ever. Like, now again, be confident. Like, I'm confident that I can do this at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that balance. Like, you're not like saying, oh, I'm greatest thing ever. No, you're like, okay, like I'm good, but I got all this humbling stuff over here that's going to keep me grounded.
Yeah. And the other thing, not to toot our own horn, but we got a pretty good system too.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, helping 1,000 families seems pretty attainable at Family First Life.
Yes.
At I don't know another company where there's an individual helping 1,000 families. I don't. If they are, they'll let us know, but I've not seen it, you know, so that's also part of it. Right. But it's, you know, it's cool to see that you managing because a lot of people get messed up, man, with the highs, the lows in between. What's a day in the life of Steve Giordano look like right now?
Yeah, it's jam-packed.
Yeah.
Up early, probably like 4:35.
Yeah.
Go in the office. I usually like to get my day started out, going through emails, have my coffee, kind of see what I got on tap for the day. Go to the gym, kind of get my head cleared there. Go back home, make sure the kids are situated and everything there. And then usually 8 o'clock, if it's, one of the 2 dial days, I'm in my office on the phone, going through emails, talking to agents, coaching, just constantly like on the phone. And let's say it's, it's a dial day, I'm doing that, let's say it's like 8 to 12, have a quick lunch, maybe I'm doing a team call or some type of a call midday, then back to the phones on those dial days, try to get done 6 o'clock or so. But some nights the reality is like I might have had a person I spoke to early that needs me to call them at 7 to write the policy, whatever. Usually though, I try on those 2 nights that I'm home to, take a walk with the kids, do stuff with the kids, be home, whatever, be in the moment. And then days in the field, 4 days, kind of like the same thing. It's just like I'm in the field usually, let's say 8 to 6:37.
Yeah. You're still going out predominantly,
yeah,
right?
Predominantly. Now, like from appointment count perspective, I used to be and tried to be diehard 30.
Yeah.
I'm probably like 18 to 25, and then like the virtual stuff is like
Okay.
filler. So there might be a lot of days I might have like 2 appointments in the morning, then I'm home, and then I'll do like more agency stuff at home in my home office, and then like, I might have like 3 or 4 appointments in the evening kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like the days get broken up a little bit differently than they did in like 2020.
What percentage of your business is virtual right now?
Probably like 20%.
Got
maybe.
it.
And it's mostly call transfer, book of business type of stuff. I'm not really like booking the appointment to run virtual for the most part. Here and there a little bit, but for the most part, no.
Got it. But if you can't tie someone down, they're too busy, whatever, schedule's online,
exactly.
Is that someone you'll move to virtual?
Yeah, then I'll do that, or a lot of times I'll just give it to somebody on my team who's running virtual,
And what was that transition like for you? Because you were in home. I mean, all these numbers we're talking about were all in home, right? And did you adapt late, like everyone else is moving towards virtual? Did you not adapt?
I mean, I guess I'd say I adapted late in the fact that I don't do it 100%. So I haven't like obviously taken the step to do all of it. I like doing those. I like selling virtual in some regards, but I know the amount of more calls typically that it takes to close. So there's some times where I'm like, how do I want to balance that?
Yeah.
Like how much of my time do I want there versus this, As far as like doing it, like it's like anything else. If you have like a person who's ready to get insurance, the price is right, the health is right, everything's right, and they'll give you all the information, You can sell it virtual. You can sell it on the moon. It don't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
They'll buy it.
Right.
or
So that
in-home.
transition wasn't bad for you.
No, it wasn't bad.
But did you treat it just like the in-home?
Yeah, I think the one thing I thought of was in time, when you're in a house, you have time, you're there, they're not kicking you out. I mean, they kick me out a lot, but they're typically not kicking you out.
Right.
But in a virtual sense, you got to really condense your time because at any minute they can click you out. So I looked at my process and I'm like, okay, you got to look at that process and just condense it. Make it really quick, really poignant, and make your questions that I ask people like one after the other, and then kind of get to, are they ready to do this now? Here's what I'm going to need, banking, social, whatever.
Yeah.
And then are we doing it or are we not? Because I don't want to waste a lot of time. If you're not going to
Right.
do anything, I'm not going to go through this massive presentation for 35 minutes and then you don't want to do anything.
Exactly. Got it. What year did you join us?
2018. I was part-time 2 months of 2018 and then full-time 2019.
Got it. And you're doing a lot of recruiting yourself now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, did Mark recruit you directly?
Yeah, I was friends with him.
Okay.
And we had been chatting. I had been looking at insurance. I kind of didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I saw what he was doing, and then we were talking about something else, and then he said, hey, like, if you're going to do this here, do this with me. We have leads. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
That was his pitch.
Yeah.
Reason I asked that is like there's a big misconception with recruiting. You know, people think that they have to sell the recruit on why they should work here, or they should be the one answering a million questions. And I don't know that Mark did that with you.
No.
It was just, here's what we got. If you're going to do this, do it with us. Did you get any sense of him wanting you to do it, or just kind of like, dude, take it or leave it?
Yeah, it was more like, I see how good you are and your potential. This would be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't like hard, like,
Right.
here's the world of everything it's going to be, and like, do it type of. It wasn't that, because that doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't.
Do you think his attitude probably attracted you more to working with him?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, warm market, knowing him the whole
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. How long did you
trust.
know him prior?
I think I met Mark in 2011.
Okay.
I think it was.
Y'all worked was Red Lobster?
Yeah,
together?
we worked in restaurants.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew each other there. We didn't know each other like crazy well, but I knew him.
You just worked together.
Yeah, I knew him, and had a good relationship. And that was big. Leads. This company I was looking at didn't have leads.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything at the time.
Right. Why were you even looking to insurance?
Because I liked the financial impact of insurance and IULs. And I started like learning about it a little bit, and I was like, I wanted to have my own thing. I got sick of just listening to people tell me what to do that didn't know what they were doing themselves, and capping my income and all that stuff. And I was like, okay.
You were managing restaurants?
I was managing restaurants, multiple restaurants. I worked in that industry for like 16 years, something like that.
Wow.
And I knew there was, my own thing was out there. I just didn't know what, and I had to have enough kind of gumption to do it.
Yeah. I couldn't picture you with like a boss.
Yeah, no. Like,
Yeah,
I look
was that?
back and I'm like, God, it's terrible. I want to be the boss.
Yeah. What was that feeling like when you made the jump, though, when you left that career? I mean, 16 years is a long time.
Yeah. Look, it was, you didn't know what you didn't know,
Yeah.
which I think was a good thing. I was trepidatious in one regard, but it was almost like you had it and like you had to put it in this side of your brain and just be like, whatever, dude, like just do it. Like I knew that I was going to work. I knew if nothing else, I was not going to be sitting on the couch, eating Doritos, on Tuesday afternoon. Like I was going to be working, and I knew that I was going to figure it out. Now, was that going to be easy, pretty, the way you want it to be? Of course, it was going to be struggle. And I think I embraced that by necessity.
Yeah. You knew going in you were going to struggle.
Yeah, I had bills. I had a mortgage. I'm like, okay, like you're going to struggle, but like you're going to give this what it needs.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, you can look back and be like, all right, I gave it everything I had.
Right. And it's funny because, there's people that will look at you and go, he's probably never struggled. He's probably always been a great sale. Like that's just misconceptions, right? Everyone goes through it.
Yep.
When you first started, what was the thing you struggled with most? Was it phone, in-home? Was it control? Like, what was the biggest thing you had to overcome before you felt like, okay, I got this now. I figured this out enough?
I think I struggled with being kind of Mr. Nice Guy with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then I realized that you had to be very assertive to kind of dictate to people what made sense to them, all while listening to what their problems are. So it's like this fine line balance that you had to have. I didn't have it, you know, like the first whatever couple weeks, and then I started like getting more repetition. Right?
Yeah.
Like I started having, because I started part time a couple of months.
Okay.
And I did, you know, like I think I did like 10 both months, just running like kind of Saturday. And I didn't sell anything the first 3 weeks or something like that.
So you went 3 weeks without selling.
Yeah, it was something along those lines.
How'd that feel?
I was like, I don't know what's going on, but like this definitely isn't good. But like I'm just a persistent.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. Like,
You're stubborn. Like I'm going to figure this out.
Selling.
Exactly.
That can tell you one or two things that's going to take your business to the next level.
It's always my favorite thing when they go, you know, these new leads, Mike. I tell you, I go, dude, there's plenty of people working them.
Right.
I don't know that it's the leads, bro. I'm thinking it's probably you.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot to all that. Like,
Right.
so if you're struggling and you're new, you got to be like, all right, like, what is this person doing?
Yeah.
Let me talk to this person, get around this person, and kind of learn.
So you didn't do that day one.
I did a little bit.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of training, and obviously I talked to Mark.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And obviously it wasn't as big as it is now.
Right.
When I
Right.
started too. I didn't as much as maybe I should have.
Yeah. And then once you started plugging into other people, what did that look like? And then what were your results?
I think I started like just listening to people that I could resonate and connect with.
Yeah.
Who I felt like the way they spoke, their psychology kind of matched mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take some of those things and you blend it into your personality.
Right.
And it was a matter of you got a lot of time in activity and then you got a lot of time in training. And blending the two. That was big for me, listening to stuff constantly and getting obsessed with it. And I think anybody who wants to be successful at anything, you have to have a level of obsession to it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you get crazy obsessed about being great at doing this and you really eat, sleep, and breathe it and listen to stuff, which there's countless hours of training out there now.
Right.
Like if you do that and invest enough and run enough appointments, like, and you fail, like, it's you, bro. Like,
Yeah,
it just,
absolutely.
You're just not meant for sales. Like,
And that's the thing. This isn't for everyone.
Right.
I mean, you've been recruiting for a while.
Yeah.
People come and go. Right.
100%.
And you can never tell.
Right.
They come out. I bet you there's guys where you recruited and thought, oh, this dude's going to be a killer. He's going to be great. He's going to be the next
He's
me.
super
right?
sharp.
He's
I love to say that.
Yeah.
He's super sharp.
So I know. I love when I hear that. He's super sharp. Oh, okay, cool. I don't know.
Yeah, but does his work ethic suck? Like,
Right. I didn't know that the sharpest guys sold the most. I actually
true.
don't think that that's true because I was definitely never described as super sharp, and I sold more than a lot of people. You know, and you mentioned taking pieces from everyone. Like, so when I started, I was young, I was in my early 20s, and I thought I had to copy Sean.
Yeah.
I thought I have to be Sean. I have to be Sean on the phone. I have to be Sean in the home. And I tried that. It didn't work. Once I started, I took some things from Sean that I could do, and then I watched someone else. I watched someone like a Mark or an Andrew or whoever, and I go, I'll do it. And then I took from all of them, and then I came up with my own thing. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you did?
100%.
Yeah.
There was like Sean, Mark, Brian Mendenhall.
Yeah.
It was just different trainings. I went there, John Wetmore, different trainings out there where I was like, oh, like that's he said that and he said it that way. Like, cool. Like,
Right.
let me do that. And then you remember an appointment you had where if you would have said that, you would have sold it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, mending all those things together. And then you have to have the hard work. You have to have the grind, the ethic, all that stuff. But that psychology and taking different people's approaches to this.
Yeah.
And then I was talking about this earlier, also understanding the clients that we
That's
meet with.
huge. Yeah.
You got to understand your audience. If you don't understand your audience in any business, you're never going to be able to dictate, hey, how am I going to be successful with the audience? And I really started analyzing that and started learning how to talk to that audience and also how you needed to present yourself to them. Like if you're meeting middle America, like I don't dress like this when I'm in an in-home.
Right. You do that for me. That's all.
For you.
Of course.
Like only I go to appointments. I'm in South Florida. I have like the same polo I've had for 5 years and shorts. I have one pair of shorts.
Yeah.
And Margot's always like, could you buy a second pair? Because I have to wash them every other day.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know. It's working. Let's
My
just
lucky
stick with
shorts,
the
right? That's the secret.
And but that's the clientele that I'm meeting.
Yeah.
With. Like we're in South Florida. They're all in, like beat up t-shirt and shorts because it's 100 degrees. Like, and now I'm just coming in, and I think the credibility becomes in how you connect with people and how you speak to them, eye contact,
Yeah.
and the way I look. Like I look presentable. I'm not saying I don't look presentable,
Right.
but it's the way you kind of come across and your knowledge and how you speak and how you connect with them. And then they're like, okay, like you know what you're doing. You've been here, and it's also you got to talk to them, telling them that you do this.
Right.
Like I tell people a lot. It's like I'm licensed in every state. I have an agency. I have thousands of clients. And sometimes I'll throw it out there. Like if people are reluctant, I'm like, or I need to think, I need to talk to another person. I usually when they tell me that, I go, well, I sell more insurance than like half of the country does. So I'm probably a good person to talk to.
Right.
You know, just because I've done this a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, they're like, oh, really? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, here, you can look me up.
Right.
And they're like, oh, okay. Like, you look like you know what you're doing. We'll go with it. You know?
So just be you.
Right.
I think a lot of times when an agent gets started, they're trying to figure out who they're supposed to be in the appointment. It's like, dude, just be yourself, right? You mentioned that early on you struggled with being too nice. You came from a hospitality background.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole it's always. I mean, the guy bitches about his steak 4 times, and maybe he ordered it incorrectly, but you're going to remake it, right? You're going to do everything, and then you're going to take it off the bill. Like, you're always trying to make the client happy. So that, would you say, kind of followed you into this business,
totally.
right? And what would happen with your clients then?
Well, what would happen is, one, they would eat me alive
Yeah.
early on, right? And then 2, you were not taking the control of the situation. You wanted everything to fit exactly the way that they wanted it. And this is completely opposite. Not everybody's going to get the policy that they want based on their health, their budget. But $1 of insurance is better than $0 of insurance. So if we now look at what is going to work for you and your health and your budget and dictate that, and I can show you how it's going to work, and then, all right, this is what it's going to do in the long run for you, and you got to be really stern in that. It started turning into like, okay, like they're not taking advantage of me anymore. Now we're actually like getting to the place where we're getting them what they need.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's all about perspective. I've had a conversation with agents where they say, I can't be that rude to my client. Like, what do you mean rude? You know what's rude to your client is not helping your client.
Yeah.
But it's a perspective thing, right? Because, well, I don't want to say – I struggled with final expense when I first started because I was like 22 years old, and I'm meeting with people that are 70, 80 years old, and I was always taught as a kid, hey, respect your elder, you know. So I'm like, me and you sitting down, I could push you till you got a policy or ask me to leave. But the guy who was 80, and it's like, I felt like – and then when I stepped back and Sean's like, dude, you know they're closer, right? Like they're close. Like you're actually disrespecting them by not telling them the truth, by not shooting them straight. And then what you realize is a lot of times that ambivalence, that fear, it's really only on your side. Like this whole, they're going to get so uncomfortable. Dude, people there, and you've been thrown out, but dude, the line, you think it's here, but it's way over here.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a lot, dude. It takes a lot. So in my opinion, you're doing your clients a disservice by not shooting them straight. And I think people hide behind that. Like, I want to be respectful. Like, I mean, you came from that background, so that's what you thought. But after a while, you're like, I'm actually not helping them. Yeah. You know, and it goes back to putting the client first. Like, it's the name of the company is not just some cute slogan. Like, that was how we sold. We put the client first. Are you a big goal setter?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like? Because, I mean, your numbers are up here, but when you're setting your goals, like, do you set them weekly, monthly, yearly? What's that look like? And then you're not always on track, right? You set a goal, I want to do X, and then what do you do when you realize, shit, this is my goal, but I'm off of it? I'm not on pace.
Yeah.
How do you reset?
I set my goals based around the activity that it takes to get there.
Okay.
And what'll end up happening is, like, let's say you're falling short of it. Like, let's say for the month, if I want to write 125, right? Because I want to get one of the bigger producer bonuses, right? So let's say that's a goal, which usually is. I base it on the activity. So, like, I'm tracking the numbers, but I'm not crazy enthralled in, like, hey, here's where the results are. What I look at is, all right, did I, like, run 4 appointments on Tuesday and I should have ran 7? You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at that stuff in the way that I'm setting my goals.
Yeah.
For me personally, for our agency, for what we're looking to do per month, per year, what have you. It's the activity, you know, recruiting, how many people am I putting in the pipeline every week, how many people are going through contracting, how many people are going through the course. I'm really focused on that. It's like you put the number on a board,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great.
Sure.
But I'm focused on the steps. And when I talk about the steps are really hour by hour, day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're missing multiple hours and days of non-activity,
yeah,
all right, makes sense if the numbers are off on your goal.
right.
You know, and then I go back to focusing on that.
Yeah. I think about, like, people that are working out, right? Weight loss. Say you want to lose 20 pounds. My goal is to lose 20 pounds. Okay. And what are your other goals?
Right.
My goal is to work out 4 days a week. My goal is to do this many, whatever it is. But what you're focusing more on those activity goals than that end result,
100%.
because you could be head faked. You could run an appointment, big premium, right? And now you're like, oh man, this week's going great. I don't really need to run, because that's what happens to people, right? I'm going to run 8 appointments a day. And you write a couple big policies, and now it's 3, 4. You know, things magically come up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy doesn't keep the policy, or he wants to lower the premium or whatnot. And now you're, oh man, what if these things didn't happen? I would have. How many times you heard that from an agent?
Oh, all the time. Where instead, if you would have just ran the schedule,
right?
I think I said it before. If you have a good weekend, like if I have a good weekend, I'm like, cool, I had a good weekend. That's a good core to my week. Great.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean Tuesday and Wednesday now I'm going to go to Disneyland.
Right.
You know, like I would have been working Tuesday or Wednesday, and I would have been stressed if I would have sold nothing over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be the same way. Let me feel the same way, even though I just wrote 20 on the weekend. You know?
Yep. Well, I hear this a lot from potential agents or even some agents here. You know, what's the work-life balance like? Now, you have a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? How many kids do you have now?
2.
2. How old are they?
One's going to be 2.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. One's going to be 4, and the other one's going to be 3.
Got it. Still young, not old enough to be in a bunch of sports and all that stuff yet. But how are you balancing that? Because you're still, you know, you've sold when you didn't have kids at a high level.
Yep.
Then you had kids, and you've maintained that. I imagine that your family likes to see you.
Yeah.
And you like to spend time with them. How are you balancing that?
I mean, it's tough. I'll be honest. But I think the one thing we do is we look at the month and we're like, okay, here's the things we're going to map out that we're going to do in the month. Like last month's a good example. We went to a spring training game, Yankees Mets. It was on a Tuesday. Great. I make my own schedule. I can go on a Tuesday. I can compensate working other days. You know, going to church on Sunday. We're doing this. We're doing that. So we map out the entire month.
Yeah.
And then I know, okay, we have 5 events in the month, and then I have the rest of this time I'm going to work. And then, you know, obviously my wife, Margot, she does so much with taking care of them. And then, you know, I'm trying to just like, okay, I'm running my schedule. And then like on a Monday or a Thursday after dialing, okay, dialing is done. Like, all right, now he's going to a swim lesson, or now we're going for a family walk. I try to make the things that I'm doing and when I'm there impactful. Yeah. I try for the most part to be in the moment when I'm in the moment, which is not always easy because we work in a business where our phone goes off every 37 seconds. So, you know, you got to balance that the best you can. I'm not the greatest at it, but I try. But, you know, it's interesting with what you're doing for your kids and why you're doing it for your kids. I started an IUL for my son when he was born, my firstborn. Yeah. Paying, you know, a couple $100 a month. And I had called the company about it. I had a question or something a couple weeks ago, and they're like, oh, he's got like 10 grand in there. I'm like, man, I'm going to be dad of the year one year.
Exactly.
I'm going to be the greatest dad ever when he's like, you know, got X amount of money when he's growing up. So, you know, you can never, time is the most important thing. Money's never going to be more important than time. But there's a fine line because when they're able to do things like when my wife's able to take him today to a Bible study and he's able to go to swimming lessons, that's possible because of what I'm able to do. Right. And I have to sacrifice to do it. So you gotta find that balance.
And you have to sacrifice. Like, you're here. You're not at the swimming lesson.
Right.
You can't be, and it's just part of it, you know. But I love how you said schedule it in. That's something that I learned from Sean years ago. Like, I remember seeing in his planner, like, family time scheduled in. Like, pick up the kid, this, that. And when I first saw it, like, most people are like, that's crazy. I'm like, it's actually not, though, because you have to be intentional. And I like that you said, you know, I know I have to do these things, and you're going to ramp up your production accordingly. It's not an excuse not to produce.
Correct.
Like with these, you know, the cruise we're doing. I remember back, you know, when we had carrier trips, all these different carriers, and we would double our production prior to. Now, this was a different company, lower contract rates, the whole deal, but we would ramp up prior to. Dude, I remember being in the airport with Sean coming back from the Bahamas, sitting on the ground booking appointments for when we landed. Like, my wife's going home, and then I'm going to run appointments because you had to, because we just took 4 or 5 days off. Like, that's the balance you're going to get. You're going to have, and then you're also going to have to miss some shit. And it's like, what's cool is they're young, right? They're 2, now they 4, getting there.
Yeah.
But the sacrifices you make now, you'll be able to enjoy more time, you know, when they're 10, 11 years old, when they're 100%. Playing every damn sport. You know, Carmela's 12. First year she was born, I don't think she knew who I was. Now I'm at just about every basketball, volleyball, whatever it is. But I wasn't back then. And you have to pick and choose your sacrifices.
And here's how I look at it, too. If I was working a regular 9 to 5 and making that same kind of mundane salary with little increments of raises, if I'm doing that, I might be doing that for 30 years, 40 years, and then, like, okay, like, we have one family trip a year and we do one thing, like.
And the whole time you're stressed because you're like, how am I going to pay for this?
Correct. And if you think about it, it's like, okay, like, yeah, you sacrifice some time here, but then, like, you're not going to be doing that for 30 years.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to look a lot differently than it does. And, you know, look, I think, and I'm sure you being a dad, you know, the respect that we're going to have
absolutely
from our kids.
Because they're watching everything.
They're going to look back, and when they start understanding what all this took and looked like and the lives that they're living, and I do not want spoiled kids, and I'm sure you don't either.
No, it's hard, though.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I want them to look at it and be like, man, like, that wasn't normal.
Right.
And that was pretty impressive that he was able to do that for us. And, you know, we love him for it. Like, that respect, I think, will mean
absolutely. You're teaching them work ethic. If any, I mean, you know, they're kids. They're not going to understand every piece of it, but at a young age, they're going to understand that, my dad works his ass off. My kids get it. And you know what they do? They do the same thing in school. They do the same thing in the sports. Like, my kids are not perfect. They are a little spoiled. But when they're in practice, when they're in school, they're working their ass off because that's what they're used to seeing, and you're showing them firsthand. Because, dude, you can show them or you can tell them. They ain't listening. You have plenty of parents that don't do shit, but, we're going to do all this. Like, yeah, but you're not. You're leading by example, which is awesome. You're in the restaurant business for a long time.
Yeah.
Dude, what's some of the craziest things you've seen? And we're going to switch gears.
Here's the best one.
Okay.
Actually, it just popped in my head.
All right.
Let's talk about having bad memories. I'll never forget there was like a fight that broke out in a restaurant, and this one woman, she throws a baby at another woman.
Oh my God.
And I think we went to like catch the baby. And then the second inclination was like, why in the hell are you throwing your baby?
Right.
Like, use your fist. Like, that probably would be the craziest one.
This wasn't Waffle House, was it?
No, this is not Waffle House. Sounds like something.
Yeah, because that's usually where you're allowed to fight. It's like Jerry Springer, Waffle House. 2 places you're allowed to fight
and it's
legally.
just craziness. Like, I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, yeah, so it probably would be fights. There's probably a couple other fight stories of things that I saw I had a breakup type of thing.
Were you GM at that time? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just like.
You're the guy that has to catch the baby.
I'm like, what are we doing? Nuts.
Yeah. How many times did you ask yourself that while you were in the business? Like, what am I doing here?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Because now the industry was one that was like I was always able to make money and be employed. Obviously, everybody always has to eat, right? Yeah. However, there was just the ceiling and the promotions and things you had to do. They were just very political, a lot of times unattainable. A lot of times you had to move all over the country to get promotions.
Yeah.
It got to the point where it was just like, all right, like
you moved around a little bit, right? Aren't you originally from Long Island?
Long Island, moved to Pennsylvania, moved to Tennessee, moved to Florida.
Yeah. Got it. So a restaurant brought you to Florida. Now you're there.
Yeah. Love Florida.
Yeah. That's awesome. At what point with us did you realize, like, this is it? This is where I'm going to be for a while? Because, I mean, even in the beginning, like you said, it was still some uncertainty, right? Like, and even once you got going, like, you knew you could do it, but did you know that you'd want to be here a long time? At what point did you realize, hey, this is the deal. This is where I'm going to be for a while?
Is honestly very early on.
Really?
Because I'll tell you why. I was so all in early on, and I also had been one, like, I had worked jobs for a very long time. I had worked in that industry a very long time. Like, I was not the serial jumper from job to job. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
I was a career person. I was, like a corporate America person. So I understood, like, you're going to be somewhere and not jumping around. And I'll never forget, it was like month 2. I had a spare bedroom in my old house, and we had done nothing with it. We lived in the house like maybe 2-3 years. And I'm like, okay, we're going to make this a badass office.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go all in. I got a built-in desk, hung TV on the wall, the whole thing. I had pictures, painted it. It was the nicest thing. I remember I did like a video. I put it on Facebook, a video of like, I had like my FFL shirt on and I'm playing like FFL music, the True Talk music.
Yeah.
and I was like, that was it. I'm like, I am all into this.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm building a home office. Like, this is what we're doing. And that was like month 2.
Really?
I think it was.
So how many families were you helping?
I mean, the
10,
first
20?
one I did was 21 my first month, and then I did 34. And I think
Got it.
I was in the process. Like, when I first got going, coming off of that convention in February 2019, I'm like, okay, like, we're making this a home office, number one.
Got
like,
it.
that's the first thing we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a key thing for new agents. Like, a lot of people dip in one toe. A lot of people dip in a foot. Like, they don't jump in and I'm here.
Yeah.
And if it sucks, and it's gonna suck at times, like, so be it.
Right.
And I'm gonna fight through it. And then it's gonna get better, and then it's gonna get really better, and then I'm gonna excel.
Yeah.
You know. But a lot of people, they don't do that. They're like, oh, you know, it's like dating. Like, well, you know, she's okay, but I might go to this one over here. Like, go all in sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, and that was kind of my thought process. I did that home office, and I'm like, all right, like, this is it.
Yeah.
We're here, we're going, and let's see what happens.
And it's like, what I love about you, dude, is I feel like you have that same mentality you have now back then before you had the results.
Yes.
And that's how you get big, and so that's how you grow, is you have to see it before it happens.
100%.
You know, so you were second month in on your way to help 30 families, and you're in there playing True Talk music, building out your office, making videos, but that's all in. And you got to see it before it happens. That's huge, dude. This is good stuff. Last thing, you mentioned convention, right? Why is that so important? Like, it's funny, you talk to people and you get all kinds of perspective. I love it, it was great, or it took me out of the field, and they were talking about this there, and like, okay, you've gone to everyone since you've been with us, right? Why are they so important, and why are they so important to you still at this level?
Because I think you always have to understand that there's somebody doing it better than you and a little differently than you, and there's something that you can learn. And I mean, if you're new, a lot of people like, oh, I can't afford to, like you said, be out of the field, or I can't afford the flight and the hotel and whatever. Correctly. So for me, I go into these things, and I thought this one was by far the best because the intimacy of the setting, the way it was set up with the hotel, it was very convenient. Everything flowed very well. I love learning. Even to this day, I'm sitting there like enthralled, and okay, what's the one or two little things? Because it doesn't have to be massive things you take away. There's little tweaks that you'll always learn from someone doing something different, and you're like, cool, man.
Right.
That stuff is huge. And the minute you turn that off for yourself, whether you're new or old, you're going to start either failing completely right off the bat, or you're going to start going backwards. Because then your mind is, I know everything.
Yeah. And there's people that sell a lot less than you that have that mindset. Like, I went to the convention, what'd you get out of it? Nothing. Like, wow, because
I drank a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why you got nothing out of it. Like, wow, the guy who finished number 1 seems to get a lot out of it. You know, it's why he keeps finishing number 1. You know, maybe you should try getting something out of it. I don't know. But I appreciate everything you do, dude. It's like just leading the charge and breaking down those barriers that, you know, that weren't really there, but we put them there, right? We like to end with some fun stuff that has nothing to do with life insurance. So I'm going to rapid fire a few questions that have nothing to do with anything at you. I don't have them in front of me, so I'm going to do my best to remember some of them. If you could be any fictional character in the world, who and why?
Could it be a wrestler? Or does that
absolutely. Wrestler's a fictional character, sure.
The Rock.
The Rock, why?
I'd want to be the new Rock. I'd want to be Hollywood Rock.
Okay.
I'm a natural heel.
Yeah.
So I would be perfect as a natural heel.
There you go. Love it. If you could travel back to any era in time, what era would that be and why?
The 80s. Because I thought the 80s were just so, like, I was born in 82.
Yeah.
I think the 80s were just a cool time. There was a lot, like, technology was kind of coming around, and different things were coming around, and I could have had really big hair and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The fashion, all that stuff. I think the 80s.
80s would be cool.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or when you hear 80s, do you still think, oh, it was 20 years ago?
Yeah, yes. And it's like,
No, dude, it's 40
years ago. I'm going to be 42 in like a month. So, like, it's like 40 years ago.
All right, last one, Steve. Do you have any hidden talents that no one knows about?
Do I have any hidden talents that no one
Like, can you play a harmonica? Can you play a guitar?
No, I definitely cannot
Anything.
do any of that. I can't like ride a one-wheeled bike either.
You a great singer?
Yeah, I'm actually a good singer.
Are you
I
really?
was actually glad you brought that up. Like, yeah, I was actually in select chorus in high school.
There you go.
And I have a good voice.
No one. That's not on anyone's bingo card right now.
That's definitely not.
Really?
Maybe I'll break out a song at convention.
All right, now you have to do it. All right.
I have to.
When I hand you your number 1 belt next year, you got to break out in a little song.
All right.
All right, deal?
Deal.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming up. I really do.
Thank you,
It's
brother.
been fun. It's been great. And I know that, talking about carving out time, like, you work your ass off. I know it's a big deal for you to take the day to come out here, but I appreciate you doing it, pouring into us and everyone else here. So keep leading the charge, dude. Keep kicking ass. And guys, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. And actually, real quick, let everyone know who's watching, where they can find you on social, where they should follow you at, what handle, what platform.
No doubt. So Instagram for sure, at RealSteveGeo. Hit me up, and then on that, you'll find my YouTube as well.
There you go. Love it. Well, thanks again, dude.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next week.